Testosterone is a primary male sex hormone that's absolutely crucial for things like building muscle mass, strengthening our bones, improving our memory and mood, and of course, increasing our sex drive and libido. And while certain foods like oysters, pomegranates, and ginger cannot help boost testosterone, there's also certain foods that will hurt your body's ability to effectively produce testosterone, and consistently eating these foods over time can even lower your testosterone levels. And though testosterone can lead to a chain of negative side effects, including a loss of muscle mass, insomnia, increased body fat, depression, and of course, low sex drive. So today in this video, I want to go over foods that can hurt your testosterone levels based on scientific evidence. The first food that will lower your testosterone is soya products. While this is still a debated topic, soy may have a negative effects on male hormonal health in general. One reason for this is because soy contains a high amount of phytoestrogen isoflavones, which can activate estrogen receptors and down-regulate androgen regulators. For those of you that don't know, androgen receptors are the ones that male hormones like testosterone and DHT bind for them to be able to have an effect. So without being able to bind to the androgen receptors, testosterone can't do its job. On top of that, soy can disrupt the uptake of iodine in the thyroid, and it can impede the production of thyroid hormones. This is a big problem because poor thyroid function is linked to impaired hormonal health and lower testosterone levels. Couple that with the type of fats that's found in soybeans, which is mostly omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. However, with all that said, not all research shows that these effects on paper are transferred over to human beings. For example, a meta-analysis published in the Journal of Fertility and Sterility suggested that soya does not lower testosterone, but there are many individual studies that do find a negative effect. So, if you want to be in a safe side, you may want to limit your intake of soy-based products like soya protein powder, tofu, and soy milk. The next food that will hurt your testosterone is mint. While herbs from the mint family like spearmint and peppermint smell great, they are not that great for testosterone. At least that's what the rat studies and a very small human study indicates. In the rodent study, the rats were divided into 4 groups. The control group received regular drinking water. Group number 2 received 20 grams of peppermint tea, and group number 3 received 20 grams of peppermint tea. Finally, the last group received double, so 40 grams of spearmint tea. In the end, the rats that received 20 grams of the peppermint tea had 25% reduction in testosterone. Group number 3 that received 20 grams of spearmint tea had a 69 reduction in testosterone. And finally, the last group that had 40 grams of the spearmint tea experienced 123% lower testosterone levels. According to this study, spearmint lower testosterone significantly more than peppermint, and another rat study also found that the spearmint drastically reduced testosterone in rats. Researchers from this study said it was likely because spearmint and possibly mint in general causes oxidative stress in the hypothalamus, resulting in reduced testosterone synthesis. The testes. Unfortunately, there are no large studies on how mint influences male humans. However, research does indicate that spearmint can lower testosterone in women that have elevated androgen levels, which cause them to suffer from excessive facial hair growth. Next, we have alcohol, which will not only lead to a terrible hangover but can also cause a reduction in testosterone levels. There are many rodent studies that show that alcohol reduces testosterone in a dose-dependent manner, which means the more you take in, the more it affects your testosterone. When it comes to human studies, there's also a strong link between a heavy alcohol intake and a reduced testosterone levels. But luckily, there's some good news when it comes to drinking alcohol. Low alcohol intake don't have all that much of an effect on testosterone. In fact, one of the studies on alcohol found out that drinking about half a gram of alcohol per kilogram of body weight, or about a quarter of a gram of alcohol per pound of body weight, was able to slightly increase testosterone. For most people, this would be about 2 or 3 drinks. However, other studies show that even small amounts like 2 glasses of of red wine can lower testosterone by 7%. So the real deal is to drink in moderation, and when you do, don't binge drink where you'll have like 10 tequila shots in a night. The dose is what makes the poison here. So do your best to limit your alcohol intake. The other food is flax seeds. I know that flax seeds products have gained a lot of popularity over the last few years, and some have even called it a superfood. However, even though flax seeds are very high in fiber and A omega-3 fatty acids, flax seeds aren't that great for optimizing male hormonal health, mostly because they are loaded with lignans. In fact, they are the world's richest source of lignans. Flax seeds contain about 75 to 800 times more lignans than most grains, legumes, fruit, and vegetables. Now, this can be a problem for two reasons. First is that lignans are highly estrogenic. In other words, they increase levels of the female sex hormone estrogen. Second is that lignans increase levels of sex hormone, binding globulin or SHB. Now, this may sound like a good thing, but this hormone binds to free testosterone molecules, rendering them inactive. So the testosterone won't be able to be used for other beneficial hormonal functions. We can see these adverse effects of flax seeds in a number of studies. For example, just 2 tablespoons of flax seeds were given to 40 male participants for only a month, and their testosterone levels dropped by around 10%. And another very small but also very interesting study, a woman who had a high testosterone levels was also experiencing excessive facial hair growth. So, to combat that, research told her to eat 30 grams of flax seeds per day for 4 months. After doing that, her serum testosterone levels dropped by 70% and her free testosterone dropped by 89%. In other study, 2 tablespoons of flax seeds per day dropped total testosterone and men by around 50% and free testosterone by 20%. However, it is important for me to mention that the participants were also told not to get more than 20% of their daily energy intake from fat, and a low fat diet could have contributed to a reduction in testosterone levels as well. In either case, if you want to maximize your testosterone levels, you're better off going with other sources of omega-3 fatty acids like salmon, fresh sardines, and walnuts. Next, we have is to take a look at the kinds of fats that you're eating. Historically, human diets were a lot higher in omega-3 fatty acids compared to omega-6 fatty acids, mostly because people mostly eat foods like wild caught fish, seeds, and leafy green vegetables. However, modern Western diets tend to be a lot higher in omega-6 fatty acids. You can check the label on most prep foods in your grocery store, and you'll find out that there are high and cheap vegetables oils like corn, soybean, cottonseed, and sunflower oils, which are all high in omega-6. But it's not just the vegetables oils. Even butter from cows and eggs from chickens that are fed regular grain-based diet skew more in the direction of omega-6 instead of omega-3. Now, the problem with this is that excessive intake of omega fatty acids can lead to an imbalance of certain hormones like estrogen and testosterone, especially when the omega-6 aren't balanced with omega-3s. This is because inside your body, omega-6 fatty acids are turned into these things called prostaglandins, which are essentially like messengers that tell our hormones what to do. If we have too many of these messages, it can throw off the balance of our hormones. Now, on top of that, omega-6 fatty acids can potentially disrupt testosterone to estrogen balance by causing inflammation. Chronic inflammation has been associated with alterations in hormone levels in many studies. So, to reduce inflammation and maintain a more similar diet to our ancestors, try to incorporate more omega-3s with fatty fish like salmon and sardines, butter from grass-fed cows, and pasture-raised or free-range animal products like pasture-raised eggs instead of regular eggs. We've reached the end of this video, and if you've reached this far, thanks a lot for that. And if you haven't still subscribed, do me a quick favor and do so. Hit that notification bell so that you can be notified whenever I drop videos like this. So see you in my next video.